Hey, Professor Homa, back to Fish Trace. This is part 2 of our path practice. So from our path practice folder, we're going to open up Fish Trace, and there's Fish Trace, and we worked with this in Computer Graphics 1, and I'll zoom into it so it kind of fills up my screen, but not too much because we are going to have some handles that may go off a little, and if you take it in too tight and you drag handles too far, it's going to scroll your screen, which could be it gets a little frustrating sometimes when the handles go out of the screen. So again, same situation on this one. We have a couple layers here and I have them locked, and you're going to work on the foreground layer, and that's where you're going to do your tracing of this fish. And it's fairly simple, but it's got straight line segments, it's got arches, it's got sharp curves, it's got change of directions, and I even put blue points here so you know where to put your anchor point, which obviously when you trace things on your own you won't have those, so we have some training wheels on here. And I'm going to go to my pen tool, and again, make sure you turn off your foreground color or it's going to cover up what you're working on with white once they start to overlap. And choose a color that's real easy to see. I'll use red again on this one. And I'm going to trace over this fish, and you could really start anywhere. And remember that last exercise we did, you'll see some of these same curves. You'll see the arcs, and they'll work the same way. Now, instead of dragging straight up and straight down, these little green arrows just kind of show us you should kind of drag the handle in the direction that they're going and that the curve is going. So when you're going up, you drag the handle that way. When you go down, you kind of follow it. You kind of follow the direction that it's going, almost as a circle. And one thing to be aware of is if you have real harsh, real high kind of arcs, you're going to need longer handles. And here, with a real shallow kind of hill, it's almost like a bump, you only need little handles. Tiny. You don't need them going like halfway across the arc. They could just probably go, maybe an eighth of the distance on here. In fact, in some cases, you only need one handle. And I'll kind of show you that as we go around, because it's kind of a judgment call whether you need two handles or one. Sometimes two handles, it gives you a little more control, but it's more to deal with. So I'll get started on this. It doesn't matter where you start, but I guess I'll start up here. So I'm going to use my pen tool again, and I'm going to follow the arrow when I start to drag it. And again, you may not have it right when you first do it, but don't worry about it. You're going to edit it after the fact. So I may not get it right either. So I'm going to drag up in the direction of the way this is going. I'm not going to follow it exactly like this. I'm just going to kind of follow the trajectory of it. And it's not a real harsh curve, so I don't need to pull a real hard handle up like that. And I'll go back down, but just a little bit, and then I'm going to drag this one down, just like that arc we did. And you could see, even when I'm dragging this, I'm making this handle fairly long, and that means I probably should have made my first handle a little bit longer. So I'm going to even leave it a little longer so I can make that other one longer later. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect right off the bat. Now here's a situation where you could hold Option, drag it around. That's one option, and maybe I'll try that one first. I'll hold Option, drag it around, but I only need a little handle here because it's a shallow curve. And then I'll go over here and kind of finish that off. And that's exactly what I was talking about. Two short handles for a shallow curve. Now here, I could drag this around, or I could even get rid of it too, because maybe I only need one handle. I'll try a different method here. I'll get rid of it, the forward handle, the one that controls the next, and I'll go up here and I'll just drag, and you can see that one handle, this one handle here is controlling the entire curve, and that's okay. And I'll alternate what I'm doing. This time I'll drag this around, and I'll make it kind of go in this direction because it's a longer curve here. It's not real sharp. And then I'll finish it off just like the arcs we were doing. I'll drag down. And you can see again, I probably should have put that other handle a little further, but I'll fix that later. And then I have an arc here. Now I can hold Option, drag it around. Probably won't have to be real long, maybe something coming out like that. And then I'll come down here. I'll scroll down just a little bit and I'll drag down. And now I have straight line segments coming up. The mouth are straight line segments, and just like the other exercise, I'm going to click right on the point, suck the handle in, and then just click, click. Now this is a real shallow kind of path here. It's a real shallow curve, so I probably don't need two handles. So I'm just going to go here and click and drag and just pull one handle out kind of the back end. You see that handle coming out the back end. That's enough to control that curve. And then down here I have straight line segments, so I'm going to click and then just finish off my straight line segments. Now here I have a judgment call. There's the belly of the fish. You could drag out a handle, or you could try to control it all with one handle. I'm going to drag one out just a little. You can see that little wedge there, so I'm going to drag out a handle just a little bit. and that'll control the first half of the curve, and then I'll go over here and I'll drag a handle that'll control the second half. And if I didn't have this first handle, I'd probably be dragging this a lot further, which can be a little more frustrating. And that's pretty good. And again, I'll hold Option and flip this one around. And if you don't get it right, just try again. Hold down Option, get right on it. And that's going to control the next curve. And I'm even going to scroll over a little bit because my handle might take me out of the screen. And I'd rather scroll myself than let the screen scroll me. And I'm going to click and drag. And you're going to run into this problem, and it'll be frustrating. You'll be like, wait a minute, what happened? It got disconnected here. I'm going to undo. Okay. And if that happens, just go back to the previous point, drag out a handle again, just to kind of start it. Make sure it's, so that you see, if you see that both handles on there, you're connected again. So you just kind of got disconnected. That happens. And I'm going to drag out again. And then I'm going to hold Option and flip this around. And, I put this point here. It could be different places, but I might even go right about here. And I'm just going to drag. And you can see it's not perfect. That's okay. And then I'm just going to click here to finish it off because that's a pretty harsh handle coming out. So if I try to drag another, it might be too much because it's not really that harsh of a curve. So I'm just going to click here to finish it off. And again, it's not perfect, but that's okay. The point is, now I could go back with my direct selection tool and kind of even off some of the hands. See, if I even this off, I can make this one longer and I can make this one shorter. You want to have fairly, even handles, in terms of weight. Then here, I have the same kind of situation now. I could drag this up, and then this one I need to drag down. It's up a little too far, so it'll drag down to help that curve a little. And again, it's not perfect. You might have to move anchor points around, but that looks pretty good. This one looks pretty good. I think I'm okay on most of this. Up here on this curve, I just need to alter this one and drag it up a little. And again, you could see what, you'll get the feel of this. And you could drag them into the point too. That makes it more shallow. That makes it more steep. This makes it more shallow. So that's it. Hold Command, click off it. And I'm going to click on it. And if you click with your selection tool, your direct selection tool, it'll delete one line segment when you click on it. I'll go on here. If I go delete, it deletes one line segment. Now if you hit delete again, it deletes the whole thing. So sometimes that's an easy way to delete. So I'm going to go around here and just do it one more time real quick. I'll start at a different place, and I won't talk. I'll just go through it so I could record it real quick. So maybe I'll start here. Okay, one thing I'll point out here, and you can see as I did it, I even ran into problems. I had to undo and drag out. That's normal. I almost need a handle here. Now, one thing I could do here, if I don't have a handle, you could go and actually use the convert tool because it's hard to pull out a handle after the fact. So I'm actually going to drag here and pull out a handle right on this point, and I'll drag up, or actually I'll drag it that way because that's where I want the handle, going up like that, and I want that one. Okay, you might say, well, now I screwed up the head of the fish. Now if I just grab this and move it around, I don't have to hold Option. If I just grab this and move it around, that disconnects it from being that seesaw kind of function with the handle. So I'll move that around, and now I have two separate handles over here to connect. And you can see this one's real long, so I'm going to bring this one back in. Now I have a short one here that I have a little more control over that end of the curve a little, because it's still kind of a little more of a sharp curve. And that's pretty much it. And again, it takes a little time and practice to getting used to how because they're all kind of connected. They all work together. So sometimes that can be a little frustrating, but it takes practice. Okay, so that's your fish trace.